This time next week, the Wrestling is Real podcast will be celebrating episode number 600. And things really don't change. There are certain things in wrestling that do not change. And why do I say that? Well, it's because of the way that wrestling has been run in the WWE as of late. Now, you know I've talked about the idea of the soap opera. As we remember, when I first did this program, we talked about the fact of how WWE decided to go ahead and find soap opera writers, out-of-work soap opera writers, because the soap operas in the 2010s, okay, in the early decade of last decade, a lot of the soap operas became obsolete because they cost too much money to go and produce. The people were getting older, the audience was getting older, and the soap operas fell by the wayside. Okay, that's what happened. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a idea of where we are on this. Now, here's a story that comes about when it comes to the show The Young and the Restless, which has been a long-standing show on CBS since 1973. Now, this is a story from 2015. And take what's going on here and compare it to WWE, all right? This is what has to be understood about the format and what they're dealing with. 100 episodes is an impressive achievement for any scripted TV show. But what if your format mandates producing more than 2 times that amount every year? For this particular format, we're talking about 2 weekly episodic shows. One that's 3 hours, one that's 2 hours every week. And NXT, another 2 hours. 7 hours of programming every week. So think about it like that. It's basically an hour for every day of the week. It's a lot. For some people, that's probably how they're going to consume wrestling. You'd be surprised. So that's the challenge of the daytime soap, The Young and the Restless, the vanguard. But what does it mean to be best of genre that's barely holding on in the modern media landscape? That's what WWE is going right now. The best of a genre that's barely holding on in the modern media landscape. To understand how far the soap opera in America has fallen, this is much like wrestling. Okay, at one point, 1981, General Hospital wrote the wedding of Luke and Laura. Think of the Corporation versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, or Stone Cold versus The Rock. Think of that. Or Hulk Hogan and his run and Saturday Night's Main Event running wild. Think of the audience. Or remember Hulk Hogan gets honored the Giant at Saturday Night's Main Event. 7 million viewers. 9, 10 million viewers on Monday nights. Every week. At the time, the Luke and Laura wedding got a daytime leading average of 14 million viewers. And that particular episode of Luke and Laura's wedding, 30 million. Now, Young and the Restless barely averages 5 million viewers. This is 2015. It's gone lower than that since. So, audience erosion isn't a problem specific to daytime soap operas, but the constricting format. Constant new content. Again, we're going to put it in the construct of WWE. Constricting format, constant new contact, 7 hours a week, 2 days a week, right? With multiple breaks, by the way. Makes adapting to the erosion far more difficult. In 1981, there were 15 series of soap operas. In 1981, there were multiple territories, right? Lots of territories. But again, when we're down to only a handful of territories left, we have a couple of TV promotions right now that are making their way up. AEW, which we're going to talk about in a moment. We got to talk about the Pinnacle. We'll talk about that in a moment. And other things that happened on Dynamite tonight, because it was just what a hell of a show. And the running off of Revolution, we have to focus on that a little bit. And we will talk about Fastlane and predict for that a little bit later on. But back to my point here about the soap operas and the similarities to wrestling. Okay? Now, there are several characters within The Young and the Restless that are prominent figures. And they've been around and have been mainstays of the product for a long time. So in this particular show, it's Nikki and Victor Newman. All right? Victor Newman is like this guy, Eric Braden, that's his name. The guy's been around since the start of the show. These two characters have been on since the start of the show. Where I think at least he has. I forget if she has. But what my point is that you're talking about having people on television in front of us, getting older in front of us for years. And when I saw Daniel Bryan and Edge doing a promo in the middle of the ring for SmackDown because Vince McMahon feels like we need to inject something else into the main event of WrestleMania because Edge and Roman Reigns isn't good enough. And the level of wrestling he wants to have there isn't good enough. So he needs to bring somebody. This is where he always thought about bringing people back. If you look at soap operas today, I can't tell you how many times where I see General Hospital, which is a long-standing show. That's a show that had started 1964, I think it was. Again, that's a show that's over 50 years old. And I can't tell you how many times I see particular stars on General Hospital that have been there for 30, 40 years. Luke and Laura themselves, they bring them back on a regular basis. Who does that too? Bringing back part-timers? WWE. That's where we are. And then stars going away to another show and coming back to a show. That's the same thing in WWE as well. But the problem is you're building stories off the same characters. You're doing the same kind of gimmicks. Oh, this person got pregnant. Here's somebody having an affair. Here's a fight, whatever. It's the same thing over and over. The trope of the soap opera is much like the trope of wrestling. But what we know is that wrestling is also an aging product in the same vein as soap operas. Dare I say, the soap opera will go down like the newspaper as an extinct product in media in the next decade. I really think that. By 2030, we will not have newspapers even where we had before. If there'll even be newsstands, I don't even know. I think newspapers will be extinct, and the soap opera will be extinct by 2030. Because the audience that would have followed them will have already passed on. And they are not retaining a new audience. It's an older, cult-like, fan-faithful audience. That is what WWE is right now. With AEW, there is a thing to be said about, they have an older audience as well. Like I heard Brian Alvarez talking about, the AEW's average audience is 47 years old. NXT's 50. And Raw and SmackDown are much the same way. They're catering to my age. I'm 45. And that's where we are. That's not good. To attract the younger audience. Now, it's not reflecting on the ratings on cable. What I will say is that there are certain things that are resonating with younger fans, right? But even then, I'll tell you this too. Make it a point that wrestling, when I go on TikTok, I go on it quite a bit. And I started getting more wrestling videos on TikTok. Maybe at some point I'll start putting videos up there myself. I do have an account there, at King of Podcasts. I just don't use it, but I like to watch a lot of videos up there. It's fascinating. I can be entertained for hours on there if I wanted to. But TikTok, most of the people that are on there that are commenting on wrestling, they're probably in their 30s and 40s. They probably lived the Attitude Era. They probably lived the Monday Night Wars. They were probably old enough to remember those 20 plus years ago. And by the way, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the fall of Nitro, the fall of WCW. We're almost there. It's almost time. And by the way, ECW is coming up on its anniversary as well. April 4th, 2001. That's also coming up. We got those two anniversaries. So again, those fans were all part of that a long time ago. And now, who's come in to replace those fans? Who are the stars? Who are the people that are getting adapted into wrestling now? Some of them are. There's a small amount that might be resonating with wrestling. But wrestling's always been meant to be for a younger audience. This product is not. They are running off of an old format. They're doing it like a soap opera. the creative people they have, some of them are done like that. Even the people that might have worked in say reality shows or things like that, they might have just taken some tropes that kind of fit that same role. It's really, that's what they're trying to do. Something scripted, something put together. The scripting doesn't work. There's nothing raw, real about it, except for a number of stars that get to be on their own and know what talking points to use. But of course, they're not going to do that. They have to script everybody. It doesn't work. And that's why there's a continued decline of the product. But there has to be a way to find this younger audience. What younger stars do they have? Well, they have the Performance Center. Why they keep filtering in new stars for them to fail, I don't know. Shayna Baszler should not be failing. And when Rhea Ripley comes in, she should not be failing either. Keith Lee, Riddle. Well, I mean, Riddle's got a place right now. But really, what other younger stars do you have that really stand out? Aleister Black, Ricochet. I understand. I understand the fans out there that want to go ahead and defend them and Andrade, who wanted to release and he couldn't get it. I understand all that. But again, we're also talking about guys that have been in the business for a long time. And the idea is that, you have certain stars that, in WWE, they're not going to let somebody young and green come on board to try to go and get over. There's something there. They're not willing to go and take somebody young and fresh and bring them on board. It's never been their style. They've never done that. So AEW is trying to do that. I mean, Jungle Boy, relatively young. Darby Allin, relatively young. MJF, 24 years old. And then you have a lot of, and again, the younger stars that you really do have in WWE are the women, which naturally would be younger. And I mean, that's where you wish the women would have a better spot. For a little while, I think the women actually carried the product in some cases. There was an excitement about Evolution and, the way that the format was and everything was being done. With Bayley, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch. Man, you were rocking. I am starting to feel bad that, when I started talking about Becky Lynch and the fact that we lost her because, she got pregnant and she obviously, blessed with a child with Seth Rollins and moving along with her life, most likely going to be doing other things when she is up for it. But she had a lot of success. And the man thing, man, it wasn't that bad. I guess it wasn't. In retrospect, maybe I'm going to eat my words. I'm going to regret because, look, things were doing better when she was around and she was champion. The promos might not have been perfect, but she had a lot of spunk, and she was exciting, and she was fun, and, we loved the story of her rise up. And we did. And there was just a lot of things like that. But really, I mean, there's nothing counterculture what's going on here. Again, this is a TikTok culture we have now. You want to get the younger audience, the audience that's going to come back and do it again, you have to do something that matches towards the audience. Now, believe it or not, Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara, they did that because they were tapping into the young culture. All right? I hate to tell you this, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, what was Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara doing? They were attracting towards a younger audience by using, they're watching Jerry Springer, one of the hottest shows on TV. Girls Gone Wild, absolutely doing the same thing there. The pop stars looking really slutty and really very sexy and a lot of sexiness and a lot of things going on, period. That was going on too. That's what they did. And the violence. The violence that ECW brought was a different level, which really, it's like desensitizing the Extreme match forever. But the things that we're doing there and the shock and awe value that what ECW did for that kind of raw recklessness and just pure raw violence and carnage, to see that on the glammed up WWE product was amazing. To see the Attitude Era, the dark, really that rock and roll kind of thing, and also the music that was being brought out, it also fit with the time. But what is there that resonates as a younger product now? I mean, really, what are the younger people doing right now that really resonates? If I had to be doing something right now and I needed to go ahead and attract a younger audience, okay, I'm going after people on Instagram. I'm going after people on TikTok. I'm looking at their short attention span, right? So you got to hit them in snappy clips if you're even going to get them. And then you have to hope that you get clips up on YouTube that will draw the audience to the main show and say, oh, look, they're doing a bunch of clips like this and a bunch of different things going on at the same time. Well, that's what's got to happen here. But they're not doing that. Okay? And what are the kids into? Superheroes, I don't think of the Marvel DC stuff as necessarily a younger audience. I think that is also a 20, 30-something crowd. And then also in the same vein, you have a lot of people that are in their that are in their 20s and 30s that are kind of living like teens. They're watching anime, they're playing video games. Go find them on GT or Fortnite or whatever you want. They're doing that. They're on Twitch. They're doing their own stuff. And so what has to happen is there has to be something that resonates to that audience. You have to attract a new audience. And then also you have to attract a new audience to an old medium. And that's what they're struggling with too. Cable television, it's this you're doing live sports, but again, it's not live sports to the point of the audience you're trying to attract. Do you know why basketball does so well for a younger audience and football? Because it fits the culture. It's an urban. I mean, you talk about the people that are in that are street culture, street minded. Right? City culture. The city kids, they're all about basketball, all about football. That's younger attractive sports. 18 to 34, 18 to 49, their numbers are better because they pull a young audience as well. Because there are a lot of people that are watching football and basketball. And UFC, in some cases. But even UFC, it's an older format now. Like, again, 10 years ago, that was the hottest thing in the world. Now, it's still pretty popular. But again, it is a sport. It is not handled like wrestling. It is different. And that's where we are. So it still comes down to having to find the younger component of the product to attract a new audience. That's the style of the show. And they have to have stars that fit the role. And is there anyone right now that's really doing that? No, not really. I mean, MJF is a throwback to the classic. He's a throwback to a Ric Flair, Nick Bockwinkel, okay? That's what he is. Kind of a talker like Larry Zbyszko. Like, that guy is a throwback. He's a young guy, but he's a throwback. Like, he would also be almost like an Ivy Leaguer kind of Michael J. Fox, Alex B. Keaton kind of character. That's an old reference, but maybe you can go and Google it, all right? So that's what we are. That's where it is. And, here's the other thing to talk about the soap operas. Once again, the creators of The Young and the Restless. Think about it like this. Again, the same similarities here. Understand this. This is why it's where it makes a lot of sense. In writing Young and the Restless, they created an ongoing story structure that always left viewers waiting for the next development. Where is that at now? We don't even have the classic cliffhanger. And then, here's the other part. Let me read this again. They created an ongoing story structure that always left viewers waiting for the next development while paying off emotional and story developments in a controlled, careful manner. We always talk about when there's a storyline, especially a WrestleMania storyline, there's a beginning and an end. We don't know what the end's going to be. It gets some weird way over to the end. You know how TikTok has the videos where they do like you have somebody doing point A to point B? And then they show, like, here's a man doing point A to point B, just going straight line. When a woman's trying to make up her mind, like going to a restaurant, and then you do the whole thing, bum, 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 and it's like going zigzag, zigzag, up, down, left, right, diagonal, whatever. It's just going different places. Same idea here. Back to this again. So in the soap operas, couples would be kept apart for as long as possible. Then after their supposed happy ending, the relationships receive complications almost immediately. Again, you wait for big matches. You bring up big feuds. Then you culminate. And then if you want to bring it back again, you create another friction. Sure. And that the writers said they knew how that he had to keep audiences satisfied. That meant giving small payoffs each and every day. Which is Raw is supposed to do. Give us payoffs each and every show. not satisfied for viewers to only tune into one big episode a week, usually on Fridays, they said, quote, I don't go for repetition. I want to have something important happen in every episode so that the viewers can't watch the show casually every other day. Because the unique storytelling style was called folding it back in, meaning that a story wouldn't have a traditional beginning, middle, and an end. Instead, the middle would take a diversion, which would start a whole new story. And these allowed storylines to go on for months or even years, keeping viewers entertained the same way. And that he was able to tell stories that always had a memory and a history, relying on the audience's knowledge of a character's past as much as their uncertain future. Yeah. This is wrestling. Now, if it's done right, here's the thing. Young and the Restless continues to go on. And it's amazing how that story right there says everything you need to know. It's amazing. But we're at this point, it sucks. Nobody's happy about this. And people can complain all they want about the fail of the format. And where wrestling just needs to find a new audience. That's what they have to go social media influencer. They have to do what they're doing on digital. They have to recreate it on television. And repurpose it back to social media. And you know what it is too? Wrestling fans, my audience, I hate to break it to you, but it's not one star that does it. And it's not one group of stars that are coming in. It's not one person in the Performance Center that's going to create that. Okay? What WWE needs to do is a complete approach like it's a digital show. That you are creating digital type moments. You're creating snappy, fast-moving moments, and you can do it with inside of a match. You can do it with inside of a segment. And you can make things happen. And again, there's just no idea of doing this. I mean, I'll put it like this too. Okay, there was the talk, remember, about how Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara, they were doing Crash TV. There were just so many things going on at one point. Well, we know that the shows are dragging now. And when they did speed up everything going on, again, ratings always did go up. Vince was right. Vince Russo was right about that. Sorry, he was right about that. But then the other thing he was right about too was creating different things that were interesting for certain stars and just trying to break off of it. I mean, again, there has to be more going on, and there's not. And I don't know if it's just lazy or what, but again, they have a creative team. They could try to create a bunch of different ideas to create into a match. But again, they are stretching for time. They are trying to fill time with long matches, and they're trying to fill feuds by just using the same people together in different variations. Very loosely variated, but nothing really different. So each and every week, you're basically getting the same matches, the same storylines, the same thing with very little progression. Until, we got to go ahead and do the pay-per-view match. And they get to this point, and look where they are. And that's where it is. Let's move along now into the soap opera storyline, because here's more. Because of the fact that we've always had changes in production, changes in styles, things move along with the times when we have to modernize something that's going on. Now, just to give a heads up here, the person we're talking about that did the Young and the Restless, okay? It was a husband and wife team of William J. Bell and wife Lee Phillip Bell. I wanted to give you that heads up there. What also the Bell family, this couple did, they introduced new production techniques, innovative storytelling style, and creation of iconic characters when they started the show in the 70s. The show wasn't rewarded with #1 ratings until December 1988. At the same time, the show dominated in ratings, and the total number of viewers for daytime soap operas started dropping. Here we go with another storyline. And the same thing that wrestling has similarly to soap operas. In the face of the declining viewership of the entire daytime soap opera, which is what the story says. So yeah, because overall the ratings have been going down anyway. Even with the inclusion of an Impact Wrestling getting, 140, 150,000 viewers, maybe 200 on a good day. 700 to 900,000 viewers for Dynamite. Then add what? Another 700,000 for NXT. 1.6, 1.8. Put 2 million together for SmackDown. Another barely 2 million for Raw. I mean, that's a lot of the same viewers. So I'd say the entire wrestling audience watching on television on a regular basis might be 3 million viewers. Might be. I think it's probably more 2.5, 2.7. So again, it's been declining. Even with the inclusion, because what's happened is, even though we've had a drop in ratings for WWE consistently, AEW has only picked up slight bit amount of slack. That's it. They're not doing, they're not overpassing WWE right now, but they could very well do it in another couple of years, possibly. They could. And here is what they said in this story. How do the soaps that do remain survive? Soap operas are uniquely generational, passed on from an older generation of viewers to a younger one. Where is that next generation? Where did it get passed on to? What happened to that? What happened is the fans in the Attitude Era, all they could talk about was the Attitude Era. And what we do now is we talk about the Attitude Era. We talk about Monday Night Wars. We talk about Hogan and Piper and Savage and all this stuff. And we talk about the Jim Crockett promotions and Flair and the Horsemen and Dusty Rhodes and all that. Right? That's what we do. And you can't, it's not an immediate answer. So WWE also has to understand this too. And they did try this. Listen, here's what happened. If soaps cannot attract that next generation, viewership will naturally decline. Bingo. The obvious answer for this problem is to actively court new and younger viewers. The Young and the Restless tried to attempt that with near disastrous results in the mid-2000s. Like other scripted shows, soap operas are highly reflective of the head writer hired to helm the writing staff, just like the showrunner of a primetime show. A head writer in daytime is responsible for all aspects of the show's production, from casting decisions to storyline and day-to-day script writing and supervision. So in 2005, they brought in a primetime writer to overhaul Young and the Restless for a more modern audience and bring a primetime sensibility to daytime. The results? Veteran characters were sidelined. Pacing accelerated. Character-driven stories turned into plot-driven stories, resoundingly rejected by loyal audiences. This sounds like Paul Heyman when he tried to go and inject some new life into WWE, right? The Bennetts. The Mike and Maria Kanellis, which was not so much young, but anyway, Humberto Carrillo, right? Ricochet, Aleister Black. I mean, remember what he was trying to do, right? Was trying to go for the younger audience, trying to go for some stars that would have some younger capability and some a little more of a skewing younger type of format. Because Paul Heyman's always done that. He's always goes for the guys, kind of the underdogs that he can bring up. That's why CM Punk did so well. That's why Cesaro for a while, always been kind of looked down, but it's like, whatever. Remember, that's not the best example, but you get what I'm saying. The results, again, pacing accelerated. Character-driven stories turned into plot-driven stories were resoundingly rejected by loyal audiences. And then then there was a writer's strike, and then changes were made to bring back the daughter-in-law of the Bells. And they decided to go and work along and try to get the show back up. The show came back in 2007 and got new total viewers back up. And the ratings would continue to dwindle, but they were the top of the soap operas, which is what WWE is right now, top of the wrestling shows. But they have forced to adjust the show in other ways, bringing down the budget and reducing the number of sets, forcing veteran actors to take significant pay cuts, and actors briefly leaving the show during contract disputes, only to return after agreeing to smaller salaries. Well, they don't have any place to go. With WWE, you have guys that are able to go to other promotions, and they're starting to get some get some decent pay. Again, they don't get a chance to go on the road, but at least they're going somewhere and getting some work. And that's what's going on now. At the end of the story, they talk about the fact that the type of history and storytelling that can't quite be replicated in any other format, at which Young and the Restless has always excelled. Hopefully, Young and the Restless will be able to continue to do for a long time to come. even as it faces declining viewership and an uncertain future. Well, we know there's no uncertain future for WWE, but they have a declining viewership. That must be addressed. Listen, I hear other wrestling podcasters talk about, all these other shows do is complain. Got it. Yes. But I would like to think that this show is constructive. We constructively criticize. Because remember, I do not take away a scintilla of what this company has accomplished. Again, Nick Khan, right? The accomplishments of getting the WWE Network now coming up April 4th. They're going to move off of their standalone, go to Peacock. NBC Universal might just buy them someday. Okay? The Fox deal, they got money rolling in, the stock, everything is going good business-wise. As a business, they are rolling. But in order to continue to keep that maintenance, to keep that up, they are, they are ultimately, they're behooving to their content. And the thing with their content is they're doing lots of it. But what has to happen is the content has to be quality once again. They can't just live off of the legacy. They have to find something to build more. And they need more than what they have right now. Listen, if we're going to get WrestleMania with an Edge, Roman Reigns, maybe Daniel Bryan add to the mix, rock on. Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, rock on. Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, rock on. Hey, New Day against AJ Styles and Omos, yeah, fine, good. I got no problem with those matches. That's all good. WrestleMania is getting to be something. Listen, I'm going to watch the shows 2 nights. I enjoy it. Do I need to get the expectations that everybody else does? No, I don't need it. But they do some story. Listen, they're making the effort. They are making an effort. But a lot of things are definitely hit and miss. All right. The Reginald stuff, people were actually mentioning about it on TikTok. There was one girl on TikTok that made the mention of that. Actually, I like the Reginald storyline. Again, everything that's going on with Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, Carmella, Reginald, I like it. I like it. Actually, Reginald being injected to help out the Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler thing, I like that too. Actually, that kind of helps because he actually injects something into that women's division. There's something about Reginald I think does fine in this role. I have no problem in here. I think he's doing a really good job. And I think he does add something. But let me tell you, having to watch Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose wrestle in a match, that's horrible. And then Lana Naomi, that's not anything else I'm not getting much into. I think they do good TikTok videos together. But other than that, I mean, they're being booked badly. I mean, you could do something more. Listen, Lana, last year, was a more compelling character than they have now. I mean, look, Lana was getting married, or she was doing the whole thing with Bobby Lashley. Trust me, I was more interested in that. I know it was a train wreck, but that train wreck I actually enjoyed, and I knew it was a train wreck, and that's okay. But that was enjoyable. I actually did like that. And Rusev doing this thing. I think the wedding was horrible, but again, it's like, what are you going to do right there? And the Liv Morgan thing, I didn't get that either. But I get what they were trying to do. But at least it was interesting. Was it great? No. And also, is this older audience going to resonate with this? No, because they're trying to get a younger audience. A little salaciousness, a little scandal. Maybe get some more women to watch. That's what they were doing. They were getting some more women to watch. We also have to understand, wrestling fans, even me, not all of what's being done on wrestling is for you. Okay, you are not going to like everything. It's like when we were growing up as well. Certain things were kid friendly. Certain things were more adult. We didn't understand. Yeah, that's what happens. It's a family product. All different steps of the family can watch. So for everybody to think that WWE needs to go ahead and cater to the diehard wrestling fans, well, we have to ask ourselves, why? We're not doing anything better for them. I mean, we might be keeping up and subscribing to the network and buying their merchandise, right? But other than that, you have to think about, we got to get another audience to come in after this. Again, pass the baton. New fans need to come in. What are we doing as a fan base to get more people involved in the wrestling? Get them to look like it might be cool again. Listen, if they like anime, they should like wrestling. If they like Rick and Morty, they should like wrestling. If they like Adventure Time, they'll like wrestling. If they like SpongeBob SquarePants, they'll like wrestling. There's a thing where we can have something that will make the show cool and make it something that will be interesting. The other thing, too, is that you have people that are booking and creating the show that are not cool for school. And they're taking some ideas that are old and antiquated. Seriously, the Alexa Bliss, Randy Orton stuff, I mean, I've seen better, like, acting and better effects from Sid and Marty Krofft. That's an old reference, okay? Take that there. I don't know the reference I could think of, but like a bad B movie. It is. It's embarrassing. Now we're going to have an intergender match at Fastlane with Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton. What? Just horrible. Horrible. But that's what they're doing. This is what they decided to do. There is nothing else being considered. And that's what this company has to figure out. Now, they are trying to make the attempt. Here's the thing. You got to get Vince out of the picture. Listen, you want him to sign off? Fine. But he has to quit being intricately involved and interwebbed into everything that's going on in the day-to-day. He has to get pulled away. It's time. Bruce Pritchard also must be pulled out of this mix. And honestly, Triple H, Shane, Stephanie, whoever else in that old regime of the family that oversees the company and oversees the legacy of the company, they need to be oversight and nothing more. Oversight. And the people that are doing the creating and writing, they need to be able to go ahead and overcome any kind of issues that Vince or anybody else says, oh, I don't like this, You need to be confident in your writing and what you're doing and saying, hey, you know what? If we could do something with this, maybe, we got to be able to convince and overcome and sell and persuade Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, and whoever else. We need to convince these people, listen, no, we can't do it like this. You got to do it like this. And you have to push. And you know what? If it's at the risk of being fired, so be it. Andrea Listenberger. Remember that name? Remember last year? She had the Otis and Mandy Rose storyline. You know what? We were into that. What have they done with Otis since then? The Alpha Academy. Otis is like this bad heel, and it's not even close. They broke up Heavy Machinery. Tucker Knight is now like a non-factor. And Otis, who was Money in the Bank briefcase holder, is nothing now. He was starting to get over. And they blew the push. I think they blew the push. As soon as Miz in the lawsuit takes the briefcase back, done. This is what this company does. So, because they didn't like something, they just change it for the sake of changing it. And again, the whole forcing down the people's throats. Do you know why the Roman Reigns storyline is so good? Because Paul Heyman's involved. This is something he is involved, and obviously he's working this whole story out. The Jey Uso character is awesome. And again, anything they put around Roman Reigns is fantastic. You can't, you know what to expect from Edge and Daniel Bryan. Listen, I am not complaining about what they did in terms of setting up their match. No, that's all good. We like that. But again, when I looked at Edge and Daniel Bryan, I think about, man, wasn't it like 10 years ago that Daniel Bryan was a little bit younger, had the beard and everything, right? He was doing the whole, the goat thing. And Edge still looked like, rocking it out there. But then Edge, throwing the ponytail up, having his head up like that and just looking old. Gray whiskers all over his beard and just looking 50 years old. Every bit of 47 or 49 or whatever he is. And Daniel Bryan, with the straight, short haircut kind of thing, but also looking dadly, man. These guys look old. And they've grown in front of us on camera. And they're not, the same stars they were. They're still great wrestlers, and they can still do stuff out there. But again, if they don't look the part, again, it just looks old. Meanwhile, what is young? Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair. I mean, why we're not kind of pushing that up a little bit? Like Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, some of the stuff they're doing, that should be main event. Honestly. Why not? Beautiful, talented, definitely kind of going at each other. They're going to have a hell of a match. And again, you could have been building the storyline long term now. Putting them together in a tag team, which has been done many times before, then to kind of break them up. It's like that's where every Sasha Banks storyline goes. With Bayley, that's what they had to do. Team them up to break up. Then team them back up again to break up. Same thing over and over. And that's only going to go so much. And these are the things that need to be considered. So I'm going to leave it there on WWE because there's not much more I want to say about that. Now, what I got to talk about, because it was so damn good of what they were doing, all right, AEW tonight and Dynamite. Okay, a couple of things that need to be stood out and talked about tonight because they just did, it really, what came out of the promo for the new faction called the Pinnacle. I loved it. It was so good. You know what? I can't even do it justice. I'm going to play back the damn promo, the MJF, because it was just so good. It deserves to be played. I'm going to play this out for you real quick. Stand by. You got to hear this promo. It's a promo of the year candidate right now for me. Enjoy this clip from MJF introducing the Pinnacle.
Tully Blanchard was absolutely right. Shocking, I know. He's only the greatest mind in the history of professional wrestling. When he called us the Pinnacle. Because that is exactly what we are. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this lineup. You might not like it, but you gotta look at it. I got 25 plus years left in the tank, and I bet that pisses you off, doesn't it? It makes your blood boil. It makes your legs shake. It makes you want to take your fist and put it right through your TV screen. Because deep down, you know that when my career's all said and done, Chris Jericho's not going to be the GOAT. No, 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 no. That spot is reserved for yours truly. We are the Pinnacle. We are family. We will be the backbone of AEW for years to come. We will take every premier championship this great sport has to offer. And as the Pinnacle, we will take what we want when we want. And right about now, Chris, you know what we want? I think we want your locker room. Oh, and Chris, before I take that and every single thing you hold near and dear to your heart in this world, week after week with me and my boys, allow me to say something to give you a little heartwarming message here. I hope I can get it right, guys. It's been 6 months. I mean, see if I can get it over with. I'm better than you, and you know it.
Okay, and besides what happened with the Pinnacle, the other thing that really stood out, which, I mean, Thunder Rosa and Brent Baker, Dr. Brent Baker in the damn main event, the unsanctioned extreme match. Wow. Whoa. And when I used to get tired of the hardcore matches with Abyss or any match with Abyss that had that, right? Or some other ones we had to go and see Tax. Man, I'll tell you, that was something different. Because those two destroyed it. They really did leave everything out there. Left everything to be an outstanding match. Amazing. You want to talk about an end to a feud? I love the feud. I thought the Thunder Rosa Brett Baker stuff was really good. And Britt Baker, man, Jesus, they took the brunt. These women are tough. They are tough. And, I mean, really, I like that hardcore match and most other matches I would ever enjoy. Good stuff. And this is what AEW does good. They are able to put in certain matches, and the extreme stuff they are actually pretty good at. And they put it, and they do make certain things where they do spread it out. You know, the Mimosa Mayhem, the exploding barbed wire match, and now we had this match here. Crazy, but good. Really good. So I give all the credit to both of them. By the way, I saw NXT. Now Finn Balor is going to go up against Karrion Kross. I hope Karrion Kross gets the belt at TakeOver Stand and Deliver, which, by the way, will be a 2-night event coming up April. Oh, here's what we got. This is interesting. 2-night event, TakeOver Stand and Deliver. First night will air April 7th on USA, so it's on a Wednesday. And then a second night will be Thursday, April 8th on Peacock and WWE Network internationally. There you go. Interesting right there. Good stuff, good stuff. One other thing with NXT I saw that they actually said is that the NXT will be moving to Tuesday. It's pretty much confirmed. Their internal calendar now shows it's going to be. As of April 13th, what does that mean for Impact Wrestling? Is it going to stay or are they going to move? I still think they're going to move, but we'll find out what's going to happen. Some Ring of Honor news we're going to talk about. That there is another title match being added to the 19th anniversary show. The Pure title will be on the line as Jonathan Gresham will take on Dak Draper. And again, that pay-per-view is coming up March 26th, so it'll be next week. And so far, matches that have been announced. Ring of Honor World title match, the champion Roosh versus Jay Lethal. Grudge match, Jay Briscoe versus EC3. And our Ring of Honor World Television title match, champion Dragon Lee versus Tracy Williams. And an unsanctioned match, it'll be Matt Taven versus his previous compadre, Vincent. And Ring of Honor World Tag Team title match will be the champions, La Faction Ingobernables, Dragon Lee and Kenny King, accompanied by Amy Rose, with against the Foundation's Tracy Williams and Rhett Titus. And a Ring of Honor World 6-Man Tag Team match, champions Shane Taylor, Soldiers of Savagery, which is Moses and Khan, will take on the Mexi squad of Bandito, Flamita, and Rey Ojoras. There you go. Oh, I got to say about this, too. So, there's been backstage news that's been going on the last couple of days about leg slapping, because WWE now has a new edict. So, for those who are watching Don Callis, the Invisible Hand, on AEW tonight, talking to Young Bucks, he threw out a shirt and said, no, what it said again? No leg slapping. They don't want any more leg slapping on during wrestling shows. So Dave Meltzer said the stories were going around that Big Wrestler did a leg slap sloppily on SmackDown, and Vince McMahon said to ban the slaps. And AEW couldn't help but take a little cheap shot, very subtle, but I enjoyed it. I like how they went and did that. It was very funny. So that's how they put that together. Now let's go ahead and talk about Fastlane this weekend. We will be doing a post show here at WrestlingIsReal.com for that show. We'll go ahead and talk about that. Let's go ahead and do it. Here we go. Now, also, we got a show coming up this weekend as well. Back for the Attack. NWA. We haven't gotten all the word about it, but we do have matches that have been announced, and it will be happening March 21st. I'll go ahead and make sure to watch that. So far, matches have been announced. NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Nick Aldis will defend against Aaron Stevens. Aaron Stevens fitting in here as the opponent in tribute to the missing link, or Josephus, who passed away. It'll be kind of a tribute match for him. The Pope will take on Tom Latimer, defending the World's Television Championship. Women's number one title, the NWA's women's title number one contender match. Thunder Rosa will take on Camille. And then we will have a a fatal four-way, Crimson versus Slice Boogie versus Jack Stane versus Jordan Clearwater, and JR Kratos versus Tyrus. Yes, Tyrus coming back to wrestle in NWA. Interesting. Taking a little time away from Fox News, I guess that's what it's coming down to. Which whatever. So let's go ahead and talk about Fastlane this weekend. At this point, we have 6 matches announced. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Will they decide to go the Bayley Sasha Banks route and truly replicate having Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair win the tag team titles and then a breakup leading to their match? Could they actually do that? Or how Asuka and Charlotte Flair could have been the same way. Will they actually do that? Will they? And again, How bad would that be if Asuka and Charlotte Flair is a planned match, and they had the tag team titles, they lost them, and there wasn't even like a heel turn or anything like that. But then all of a sudden, Charlotte Flair puts out a promo and she says, "I want Asuka for the Raw Women's title." Anyways, just don't get it. And then you have Shayna Baszler kind of going up against Asuka. So we don't know what match they're going to go with after all. Not sure. But I think Nia and Shayna will win. And there'll be some kind of a rift between Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Probably will do something with that. They need to go and get rid of this. And let Sasha and Bianca actually have their feud. You need to build some heat for that match. Like, we already know we're excited for it, but let's give something. Or maybe they're not going to do anything at all. And probably better off if they don't. Big E versus Apollo Crews. I don't know what to think of Apollo Crews now as like this militant Nigerian soldier type thing, which I know that's his background. And they're going into that. I guess, did he want to do it? I don't know. Does it make much of a difference? I don't know, but it's whatever. I mean, it'll be a good match. But trying to build this Apollo Crews character, not good. And Big E, good promo work. This is just a step up for him. So Apollo Crews, good opponent. That'll be a good match, pretty sure. Fastlane, we're going to get Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon. Now, I will say this. All the stuff that we're doing with the stupid stuff with Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman was horrible. I kind of warmed up a little bit to it when they did the whole beat down that Shane McMahon was able to do to Braun Strowman, throwing paint on him. Yeah, I guess now Shane finally has the heat. A little bit overdue, but at least they got it. So that works. And then we'll have Alexa Bliss versus Randy Orton in an intergender match. Now, I don't know. This is going to be completely cinematic. Well, not cinematic. They're just going to pre-tape this. I'm already going to hate this match. I don't want to see what it's. I think Alexa Bliss wins, and Randy Orton's going to continue to fall apart and spit fake blood or whatever kind of blob stuff he's got coming out of his mouth. I think Big E retains. Nia and Shayna will retain. Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre. So they were building this feud for a while. Then they had the heel turn by Sheamus, cooled it off because Drew McIntyre got hurt, or they injured him out of storyline. And here we are. Now we're going to have this match. It's like, it didn't really matter. You just need to have it, and they have it in their back pocket to go back to it. Roman Reigns versus Bryan. That's going to be good. That should be that'll be definitely a very good match for the Universal Championship. And Edge or Jey Uso will be the special guest enforcer. I guess they will learn about that when they wrestle each other on SmackDown tomorrow night. So there we go. We'll find out all about that. Fastlane will be fine. Again, we'll talk about that. If I get where I'm not going to get time to go and watch NWA Back for the Attack in time to go ahead and report on it, but I'll talk about that on Wednesday, and we'll bring that up as part of the show. So that's it for tonight. We're going to stop right there. Thank you for listening again. Tune into the show as you always do. I really appreciate it. And again, think about the soap opera scenario and where wrestling is right now. I'd love to get your comments about it. If you decide to go and say something, go ahead and go to the YouTube channel. I have all my comments right there for all those that might be watching the video. You can always put comments there. YouTube.com/JBRASCO951. There we go. Come back this weekend after we watch Fastlane for the post-show Fastlane here on the Wrestling Goes Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.